There is a popular saying in leadership that if you think you're leading and there's nobody following you, you are only going on a walk. On this platform, you are going to learn principles of leadership. You are going to encounter different leaders. You are going to learn about how you can grow as a leader, how you can make an impact. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm the host for the leadership platform. I am a leadership coach, a lawyer by profession, a John C. Maxwell certified coach. I have been in corporate life in senior positions for several years, and now I run the Center for Transformational Leadership, where we train and coach leaders to become better leaders. And I invite you to go on a journey with us as we discuss the subject of leadership in the coming weeks.
This and every Saturday, you have opportunity to ask questions, share your views on important leadership matters.
We spend a lot of time developing our professions, but we don't spend time developing ourselves. Look, as a leader, as a professional, you have to grow. You have to grow yourself. And to be able to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. A lot of us are not achieving the maximum we can achieve because we have not invested in our personal growth. So we are bringing you this special studies based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And we're going to just spend time with you and help you go through the principles that you need to be able to grow your person, to become a better person. Because if you become a better person, you become a better leader, you become a better father, you become a better professional. Do not miss this opportunity, as the masterclass is going to be very practical and discussional. It is going to be a limited number of people. So please register now to be part of the program.
Hello. Not sure if anybody can hear me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the leadership platform. Once again, we are very, very grateful for another Saturday. We thank God for our lives. We thank God for what He has blessed us with, and we pray that God will lead us on this journey of growth, of development in our leadership. So we thank everybody who is connected. We know that so many of you connect on Facebook and YouTube and other means that you don't introduce yourselves. But we delight in announcing to the world that you are here. So we want to know you, that you are here. I can see Miss Abe is already here, and he says he's happy to be here for part 2. He's excited to learn more on mental health. So, which means Abby was here last week. So if you are connected, please just introduce yourself, and so that we can announce you to the world. Ni Hansen Norte is here also on the leadership platform, and we're grateful, Ni, that you have introduced yourself. Please, whether you introduce yourself or not, share the link and invite others to join. Like our page, our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channels so that you don't miss any of our episodes. So we're grateful to our speaker, Dr. Eric Hunsukumi, who has been gracious enough to join us again this evening. Last week when he joined us, we had a bit of issues with internet, but today all is resolved. He's here, he's ready to take us away. As Prince Harry has said, the experience I have had is that once you start talking about experiencing mental health struggle, you realize that actually you are part of quite a big club. So that's Prince Harry. He realized that he's in a part of a big club. All of us have mental issues, mental health issues of one degree or the other. Fred Rogers has said anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that's mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. And that's why we're dedicating these two sessions on mental health. We want to talk about mental health in a way that will demystify it, in a way that will make us manageable, make it manageable for all of us. And so we want to encourage you. Dr. Eric is going to recap what he did for us last week, and he's going to add different flavors and dimensions to it to bring the message home. But we're going to also invite you, all of you who are connected, we're going to leave more time. This session is going to be more time for discussions. So please, if you have any questions, any mental health issues, any relationship issues, any emotional issues, this evening you can have free consulting from Dr. Eric. So start writing them already in the chat box so that Dr. Eric Usukumi will be able to help us and help you to address them. So today we're going to talk about mental health as we started last week. Now, for those of you who may be joining new, Dr. Eric Usukumi is a licensed psychologist who holds a Master of Philosophy degree in clinical psychology from the University of Ghana. He is a long-standing member of the Ghana Psychological Association. He has over 10 years of experience and has helped clients from all walks of life with various mental health challenges. Because he specializes in stress management, he has consulted for a number of corporate institutions, including banks, schools, etc. He also consulted for the National Assessment Center for Children with Special Educational Needs for 5 years. All right. So currently, he's a senior psychologist at the Trust Hospitals and Clinic. As a stress management specialist at Psych Connect Ghana, which is a psychological well-being association. He is also a co-founder and editor-in-chief of Happiness Digest, which is a quarterly magazine on happiness. He is a great speaker also, as we saw last week. He spoke eloquently, and he's dedicated to helping and empowering people solve their mental, emotional, and behavioral problems. So this evening, if you have mental, emotional, behavioral problems, we want you to begin to write it. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's your friend, maybe it's somebody close to you, somebody in the office, somebody you were leading, somebody you lead, and you think that maybe this session will be of help. So we're going to spend more time addressing some of those issues. So start putting your questions up already. This is a very important matter. All leaders need mentally healthy, a healthy mental mind to be able to lead well. Because if you are the leader and you're not stable, you have issues, challenges, emotional, psychological issues, and you don't address them properly, then you are not going to be able to lead well. So we encourage you to be able to come up with your questions so that we can help you. Eric can help you to address them. So I have Mavis Agre is on the line. Jemima is on the line all the way from the United States. Desmond Upon is connected from Sunyani. And we have Phil Fojo, Philippa Yosin joining from Gomwa Fete. Thank you so much for joining, and we're grateful. So at this point, I'm going to leave the stage to Dr. Eric Husukumi to lead us in the discussion. And Doc, you are very, very welcome. And we're grateful that you've made it today again to continue with us. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Take us away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yim, and thank you all our viewers. Um, Last week, I tried my very best to help us to have this program, but everything that happens is good. For us mental health specialists, we believe that there is something good in everything that happens to us. We are talking about mental health. And I remember Mr. Yim asking the question, what is the difference between mental health and mental illness? So one is health and one is a sickness. So um, when I described mental health, I mentioned that it is how healthy our minds are, our emotions are, and then our behaviors are. So why are we saying mental? Mental means mind, but why are we including emotional and behavior? It's because the mind is the most powerful of all. Mental health is health. There can be no health without mental health, but there can be some kind of health with mental health. So for instance, if somebody is physically healthy, anyone who is physically healthy has some good mental health predisposition. Let's look at people who go to the hospital. What name do you give to the person who goes to the hospital? It's called a patient. Why patient? It means you have to be patient with that person. Other than that, you cause him a lot of harm more than good. But what do we find these days? A lot of nurses scream at these patients. Some doctors also scream at them. They tell them things that make them cry in the consulting room. They tell them things that make them cry in the gallery, public gallery, where a nurse is checking BP or even asking someone to sit somewhere that he's supposed to sit instead of being at other place that is seated. So mental health is key. How does the WHO, the superarching organization, define health? They say that it is not just the absence of physical illness or an infection, but also the presence of emotional, mental, and sexual and social well-being, which means that half without mental health is meaningless. So as we talk to each other as leaders and leaders to be, we have to recognize the fact that our mental health is very, very important in the things that we do. There is this idea where people try to create a dichotomy between mental health and mental illness. But there is a universal truth that I want us to share, and those of us watching can look at the screen. So we have the continuum when it comes to mental health. So at one part is mental health or mental well-being, and then at the other half is mental illness or mental disease. So at what point can we say somebody has a mental health? Anyone who is stable, anybody at all who is stable, we can consider that person as having a mental health. And such people are those who are able to flourish, manage their stress level, feel happy in the midst of positive things in their lives. That's one category of people. So the person has no mental illness, especially no diagnosed mental illness. And at the same time, he's able to express himself being happy. He's able to respond to happy stimulus or happy discussions or events, things they hear and things that they see. Then there's also the person who has been diagnosed of any kind of mental illness. It could be depression, it could be schizophrenia, it could be bipolar, it could be OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, it could be post traumatic stress disorder. So the person has been diagnosed with their mental health, a mental disease. But because one, he's taking his medications and he's also able to manage the stress that comes along with being diagnosed with mental health in our community, we will consider that person as having a good mental health or that person has mental well-being. So these are the two categories of people: someone with diagnosis and the other person has no diagnosis, but both of them are thriving, they are flourishing, they're able to cope, exist, enjoy life the way it's meant to be enjoyed. Then the other two categories fall in the second half. The first one is the one who has been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. While they've been diagnosed with a mental health disorder, they are not taking their medication, so they are not compliant with medication, they are not compliant with reviews, they are not able to manage their stresses, they're not able to relate well with people. So everywhere is bazaar in quotes. So they have poor mental health or mental well-being. Then the second category of those in the second half, is those who have no diagnosis. So they are healthy people like us, in quotes, but they are not able to form good relationship. They are not able to form good relationship. They are also not able to go and then enjoy life the way it's supposed to be enjoyed. And so, because of that, they are not able to function the way they are expected to function. So, such people also have poor mental health. These people also have poor mental health. So, these are the two or the four um, groups of people. Whenever we talk about mental health, they have to be mentioned. Good. What are mental disorders? What are they? They are any condition at all that affects our thinking. Remember, when we're defining mental health, we said that it is the ability for us to function, okay, in our minds, in our emotions, and in our behavior. So, mental disorders are any condition that affects our ability to think, our ability to express our emotions appropriately, and then our ability to behave appropriately. So someone who is taking alcohol in a way that is unbecoming is considered to have a mental illness. That is very important because the person is not able to function well. He can't work, he can't eat, he is misbehaving, talking about things he shouldn't talk. Sometimes you find them on the floor in gutters trying to cross road. They are not stable, they don't have concentration, and all other things that affect their personality or their daily life. So, mental disorders, one, come to affect our thinking, our emotions, and our behavior. Mental disorders also affect our ability to relate with people. So someone with depression will become withdrawn. For instance, they will not eat. So when the wife cooks for him, he will not eat. When he goes to party, he becomes quiet, lonely, and withdrawn from the other people. So all the enjoyments happening in that environment, he doesn't take part, even though he's present there. So that's what mental disorders can do. They can also affect our perception, the way we think about things in life, the way we react with people, interact with people, and then with our very environment. That is what mental health really is. There are several conditions we can classify as mental health. I want to quickly talk about two people that I've met in the past 5 years. One of them is a businessman who has three kids in medical school, and he's a wonderful pastor. His home has been thriving, he's active, lively, and so on. Then one of his daughters, so he has three daughters and one boy. One of his daughters, the elderly child, was affected by a mental disorder. So the lady just one decided talking excessively, behaving strangely, putting her posts on social media at all times, trying to cook at all times, and do things that when you observe the person, you realize the behavior has changed. And so I was called in to examine, and then we started treatment. This girl had what we call the bipolar condition. It's a condition that has two extreme ends. At one extreme end, the person is so depressed, so he's not able to sleep, eat, feel good, connect with people, interact with people, and do all the things that one is supposed to do when they are active. Then at the other end, the person becomes the opposite of depression. He becomes very, very activated. He's talking so much. He's eating a lot. He's playing more than necessary. He's um, sweeping his room at all times, doing all kind of activities. So that's what we call the bipolar disorder. So the child had this condition, and all of a sudden, it affected the father's mental health. So let's look at the whole idea. One person gets a mental health disorder, and then that affects somebody's mental health. Now, the father didn't have a diagnosis because I didn't diagnose him. But because of the daughter's mental health disorder, the man was not stable. He was not able to cope. He was so worried. He couldn't go to work. He couldn't function at the church. He had to delegate most of his function at the church to the junior pastors to perform. That's how bad mental disorders can affect our mental health. So, for those of us who are leaders in other categories, the pastor is the leader of his church. So, those of us who are leaders in other institutions and firms, when our staff gets mental disorders, it is possible to affect our mental health. So, for instance, if your accountant is diagnosed with depression, he's going to make a lot of errors, he's going to make a lot of mistakes, he'll be adding zeros or taking zeros off, and that is going to affect the entire business. So let's take mental health very seriously so that when we happen to see the symptoms, which we will be discussing, we can quickly move in to support these people who we work with. So it's important that we discuss mental health issues regularly. I will encourage that we should even have posters and paste them across the offices so that people can easily express their feelings and their thoughts, so that when they have mental health issues, we can come in to support them. So these are some of the mental health conditions that people can get: depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, dementia, which is a memory problem. Okay, it affects your whole mind, making you unable. So I'm describing dementia, making you unable to think properly, making you unable to organize yourself. In fact, when you have dementia, you even lose so much memory that you can't even remember how to eat. Sometimes you eat and you forget that you have eaten. You forget that you have bathed. So you can bath 5 times in a day. In fact, dementia is the main reason why people describe some elderly people as witches. Now, let me say emphatically, in Ghana, it is common to hear that they've catched a witch somewhere or a wizard somewhere. And then the description is, Yachin, when we caught him or her, he was naked. He was naked. So we believe that whilst he was flying in the middle of the night, the powers around the house or the neighborhood actually catched him or trapped him and he fell. But the truth is that when you have dementia, you can enter somebody's house without knowing you've entered somebody's house. You can enter the house enter the person's room, undress yourself, enter the bathhouse to go and bath, or enter the kitchen to go and look for food to eat, is the number one cause of elderly people getting lost because they can't find their navigational capacity to go back home when they leave home. So let's take that very seriously so that when elderly people get dementia, we can help them. So dementia basically is a gradual decline in our cognitive functions. In our cognitive functions. Okay. Then we also have the neuro or the developmental disorders that are due to the way people develop from childhood, the way the brain is developed when we are giving birth to. It can also create a number of mental health conditions. Then we have the anxiety disorder. There are a lot of anxiety disorders. There are the panic disorders. We have the obsessive compulsive disorder. We also have public speaking phobia or anxiety. We have performance anxiety. There is even anxieties of specific things like water, like fire. People are scared of enclosed places. Some people are scared of big spaces. So for some people, if they have to be on a street and there is no other human being on it, they get panic. Some people are scared of snakes, cockroaches, lizard, and so on. These are the specific anxiety disorders. Then there's also the eating disorder, there are the personality disorder. There are even disorders we call the somatoform disorders. These disorders happen when people have physical symptoms of a disease, but no medical examination or imaging can actually be able to collect the information that the person is talking about. So, for instance, if I'm complaining of stomach ache, severe stomach ache, and the doctor suspects it is stomach ulcer, when he puts you through endoscopy, the cameras can pick the sore in your womb. But if somebody is complaining, the cameras are saying there's nothing there, the person is still complaining, then we can classify that kind of disorder as a somatoform disorder or what we call the psychosomatic disorder, a disorder that is coming from the mind instead of the physical person. So these are some common mental health conditions. The signs of mental health conditions are many, plenty. Almost every symptom can pass for mental health disorder because from the definition we've given, it affects your mind, it affects your emotions, it affects your physical being. So you can have headache, you can have sight problems. In fact, the beginning of psychology is started when during the Second World War, a lot of it, the First World War, where a lot of the veterans came home with disorders that biological medicine, what we call biological medicine, what we probably call medicine, or the normal doctors we find in the hospitals, did all their tests and investigations, but couldn't find any problem with these people. A typical example was that some of the veterans came home blind, but the optometrists, the ophthalmologists, they all examined these people and they didn't find any reason why they should be blind. Some came home actually having diarrhea, running diarrhea frequently. Some people also came home being confused. They were having dreams or they were attacking people on the streets when such people have not done anything to them. Other people also became paralyzed. Some of the veterans became paralyzed. And then no medical examination was able to prove the cause of the paralysis. So that was how psychology started. So later they realized that those things were not physical, they were coming from the mind. They were more psychological, mental thing. So the paralyzed person, for instance, where some of them were observed to be confused because one, they have high Christian principles which says that thou shalt not kill, and then the country or the state has empowered them with a gun and all the ammunition to shoot at their enemies. So when this happens in the mind, there's distortion, and this distortion can make you freeze. And the freezing is what caused paralysis in some of these people. Others too saw so much that they fought against the things that they were seeing. A lot of killings, a lot of bloodshed, people being lamed, bodies flying all over. And so it was difficult for them to comprehend. And that made them to also shut their vision. mentally. So even though their eyes were functioning, they couldn't see from the mind, and so they were not able to see things. So such people were treated by psychologists by then. That's where psychology became very popular in the States. So these conditions happen because our minds, our emotions, and then our physical behavior are involved. So we have to take note of that also. So the symptoms are a lot, a lot, a lot. So it could be anything: not sleeping well, not eating well, talking too much, talking too less. The too much and the too less are supposed to be either beyond what we are known to do or below what we are known to do. So it's not just any kind of talking. Some people, we know them to talk a lot naturally, and then others to talk less naturally. There are some people who are introverts. So introverts don't have psychological problems. Let's take note of that. But when somebody is an extrovert, then all of a sudden he's putting up attributes of an introvert. Then that person is likely to be portraying some symptoms of a mental health disorder. Then there are those who complain a lot about loss of energy, tiredness, and not able to function the way they are able to function. Then there's a common one for depression that we call loss of interest in activities that previously people are interested in. So when it comes to gentlemen or guys, those who like football, they will stop watching football. They won't even go to those who want to watch the giant screens will stop going there. They won't even discuss it. Then you should know that that person has is showing symptoms of a mental health disorder. So a lot of them are there. Then let's quickly look at who is at risk. Everybody is at risk, whether you are the CEO, you're the president, you are the laborer, the lowest on the rank, the cleaner. Every one of us can have a mental health problem. So at home, the head of the family can have a mental health problem. Just then, any child or any other person in the family can have a mental health disorder. And the scenario I give about the pastor is a clear manifestation of a situation where the family had one. And in fact, that particular situation it affected him so much. According to the man, he has never experienced such a thing. He hears about it, but of course, like you said, the when Mr. Yim was introducing me, he mentioned one great person, one great I think a prince, who said his experience with mental health made him realize that a lot of people have that experience. So the man also got to know that all the things people were talking about, like I'm talking about right now, you think it's so distant from you, but I can assure you that very soon it will be very close to you. It's not a case, but that's the reality of life. It can happen to any of us. It could be your father, it could be your brother or sister, your wife, your husband, your boss, your subordinate, or your classmate, or any other person who belongs in your cohort. So anybody of us can be at risk. However, there are certain factors that when they present in your life make it more likely for you to, or more risk for you to develop a mental health disorder. One of them is the history. If there's anybody in your family who has a mental health disorder, then the chances that you get one is higher than the other person who doesn't have anyone. Then childhood abuse, any abuse at all from childhood can bring a person can make the child who becomes an adult get a mental health disorder. The negative life events, for instance, those who were involved in the Accra, the Circle Dwell disaster, the fire, and then the flood, then the stadium disaster, then I think the recent one is the atomic junction gas explosion. So these disasters can cause permanent or more permanent damage to people's mental health. So when these things happen, that's why recently when the Apiate explosion happened, the Ghana Psychological Council, Ghana Psychological Association dispatched a team of psychologists there to go and work on them, give them psychological first aid to counsel them on the kind of things they are likely to experience so that when it happens, they don't overthink, thereby making them rather going to the other side of the continuum where they will develop a full-blown mental illness. Then people who suffer from severe chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and then the other heart disease, stroke, and then HIV. Such people can easily get mental health because the mind exists in the physical body. So anytime the physical body is in trouble, the mind has to deal with it. And in dealing with that, if care is not taken, you could be thrown overboard and get a full-blown mental illness. Then there are also those who abuse substances, alcohol. Alcohol is the commonest substance that is being abused. So there's alcohol-induced psychosis. And so when we say psychosis, we are referring to a condition where the person is hallucinating. Hallucination is getting signals from your sense organs when nothing exists for the sense organ to pick. So, for instance, I'm in this room alone. So, if I start describing somebody who is seated here, and then you are looking into a camera and where there's nobody here, you can tell at that I have hallucination. That is visual hallucination. Or I'm chatting with someone who doesn't exist in this room, but I'm chatting as if the person is real and is here and is responding. Then I have what we call the auditory hallucination. So hallucination is one of the markers of psychosis. Then the second marker is delusion. Delusions are more of our thinking. So thinking that something is happening to you, for instance, thinking that somebody is out there to hurt you, thinking that somebody doesn't like you, thinking that somebody is taking pictures of you or following you when there is nobody actually following you. So that is called delusions, and it happens a lot when some people abuse alcohol. Then we also know about the other drug abuse like marijuana, the cocaine, and other things. So they actually affect the mind and makes you see things that do not exist and hear things that do not exist. Then being shy as a child can also predispose you to mental health disorder. Then finally, here we have the low self-esteem. Low self-esteem can also make you have a mental disorder. So, for instance, you have so much low value for yourself that you think you're not beautiful, you think you cannot talk in public, you think people don't like you, or when you talk, people will laugh at you. So you end up withdrawing. And the more you withdraw, the more you confirm what you think about yourself, because nobody will come and look for you in your room to talk to you. So you think people don't like you, and you confirm that because nobody will come to you and nobody will talk to you. So that is how low self-esteem can predispose us to mental illness. So what can we do now that we know what mental illness is and what causes it and the symptoms of mental? What can we do? It's important that we as leaders should make it a policy to make our workplaces, our environments, whether it being at home, the church, or the corporate environment, let's make mental health a topic that we can easily discuss so that people can talk about their mental health. Let's also not forget that when my father has a mental health problem, it will affect my mental health and it also affects my performance or my productivity at work. So when I'm able to talk about this easily, I'm more likely to find solution or get someone to help me identify a psychologist or any other mental health specialist to support me and my family to handle the situation. Now I'm going back again to the pastor I spoke about. Now it is interesting to know that whilst we're treating the daughter who is the first child, then the second child, who is a boy, also in medical school, also developed a mental health disorder. All of them very severe. When we talk about severe mental health disorder, it means that the person is having hallucinations and is having delusions. So it was not a joke at all. The mother was down, so worried, always crying, weeping. The siblings were confused because they've never seen this. Whilst they were attributing it to witchcraft, then they were praying. I was also there, luckily, to support them with the other treatment interventions. Then I can tell you with 100% assurance that the two children are okay. They've gone back to school. They've actually written their exam. They've passed, and they are finally. In fact, I think they are about to do their housemanship, which means that they are done. They are going to make it. So there's great assurance that people with mental health can get treatment 100%. So they've moved from one of the continuum from mental illness to mental health. So they have good mental health, the two of them. And because they have good mental health, their father and their mother, who didn't have any diagnosis but had a poor mental health, also now have a good mental health. So that is how it works. So let's allow people to talk about their mental health easily at the workplaces. Then also, it's important for us to make use of our protective factors. There are certain things that protect each and every one of us against mental health. One of them is work. Yes, in the work environment, people can make funny statements. So if you come to work with a problem, somebody can make a funny statement and you laugh. Laughing is a powerful tool to stress management. Laughing. So I'm writing an article on how to laugh. Yes, somebody will ask why, but it's important to learn how to laugh and then laugh frequently. One common way is to stand in front of your mirror and laugh. Now, there's no reason for you to laugh, but the moment you start laughing, like you heard me, after saying that I started laughing, well, it's funny to stand in front of a mirror and start laughing. When you start laughing, you see yourself to be funny, and that funny feeling will make you laugh more. Okay, so let's use our protective factors. The second one is our family and friends. Let's make use of them. Let's talk to them when we have little challenges at work, at our family, in our families. So in the couple relationship, if there's a challenges, talk to someone, a friend or a relative who is close to you. There are a lot of us who have vowed never to have friends, and we have even vowed never to have anything to do with our family members. Let's be mindful of that because it does not protect you. It makes you rather vulnerable to catching a mental illness. So let's identify our protective factors and make use of them. We each of us know what we do to make us happy. Let's always strive and keep tabs on stuff that makes us happy on regular basis so that we make them happen to us every day. Okay, so some of these factors too are the social supports and then physical activity. Exercising is a protective factor against mental health. In fact, it has been that people who occasionally or regularly engage in physical activities are more likely to sustain a mental health, or they are more likely to fight against a mental illness. So if any of us is not doing that, this is the best time to start exercising. So that because we believe that exercise is like nutrients, it's a kind of nutrients to the brain, vitamins. So the more exercise you do, the more you get vitamins. What does the vitamins do? They protect us against disease. So please exercise so that you can protect yourself against mental disorders. Then having a strong cultural identity and pride can also boost your mental health. For instance, we are Ghanaians, and then there are a lot of things that we do that makes us feel more Ghanaian. One of the common one, when people mention chocolate, all of us are happy. Okay, when people mention gold, people we are happy, even though gradually, because of poor economic management, so to speak, we are losing that protective factor from the resources that we have. Of course, the resources we have is not the only thing we can rely on to protect ourselves against mental health disorders. Then also, it is important for us to get connected and build relationships. So anyone who is not able to make friends and maintain these friends is a candidate for a mental health disorder. What do friends do? A friend is the one who will be with you no matter what your issues are. So in bad times and in good times, so they will help you to celebrate good times or successes, and they help you to deal with bad times and failures. So a friend, so if you build connections and you have good friends and you build connections with your family, it helps you to protect yourself so that on the day that you are hit by misfortune, they will be there to share in that pain so that you don't get a full-blown mental illness. Then also, it is okay to have fun. In Ewe, they said Chichiauche Ofena. If I'm translating directly into Chi, it said that Empenifosu Diagro. So even though we are adults, we can also have fun. We can play around. So these guys are playing Ludo or something like that, and then in the midst of that, they are having fun. They are enjoying it. So let's have fun, whatever kind of fun, provided it is legal. Let's have it, so that we can use that to help us manage our mental health. Then we should remember that's limited. Each and every one of us is allocated 24 hours in a day. Thanks be to God. When we abuse the 24 hours, we are given a new stock of 24 hours. This is the only thing that you cannot store. You cannot store time. So when it's given to you, use it. And if you miss it, make sure that you use the next one that is coming. So luckily for us, we are always going to be replenished with a new set of time. So don't say that it's gone. It's not gone, because every day that you have time, start that project, start that dream, implement that decision that you have taken for a very long time, so that your inability to implement it wouldn't cause you stress and you go worrying about it. That can push you or tip you into a mental health situation. We should also have a balanced life. Some of us are too focused on work. Some of us are too focused on family, too focused on it. Work a little bit. There's the common statement that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And it is very true. If you don't play, you become dull, and then you want to have the mental capacity to deal with stress when it happens. So let's have a balance. A little play here. So I even say that in your office, on your PC, you should have a lot of things that can make you balance. So when you work a little bit and you are tired, watch some funny video, listen to some funny clip, listen to some preaching from your pastor, listen to something from the people we call motivational speakers. Listen to something to break the gap between your brain focusing on work so much and then you relaxing yourself after a brief period of time. Practicing grounding techniques. There are so many kinds of grounding techniques. There's yoga, there's meditation, there's relaxation training, there's breathing in exercise. There are a lot of things you can do to ground yourself. Grounding just means that moving from your mind and then entering into your environment. So as I'm seated here, I am thinking about maybe what I'm going to eat, and also thinking that my wife is not at home, so it's not likely there will be food at home for me to eat. And then if I do that for a very long time, my brains will become very hot, and that is stress. So I should be able to move from my mind and come into my environment. In most cases, our environment are rich with a lot of stress releases. So you could be in a party or you could be with friends. You know, you can be with friends and you still be inside your head, suffering the pain of the troubles of your head. It could be the past or the future. So just come out of there and then observe your friends having fun and join them. Just come out and then begin to recognize things that are physically present in your environment. The things you can see, the things you can hear, the things you can touch, the things you can smell, things you can ground in. When you do that, you block your mind from focusing on things inside your head and then shifting your mind to focus on things in your environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to end here and then invite your contributions and your questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, dear friend. My name is Samuel Ayim, and I'm the CEO for the Center for Transformational Leadership. And I'm bringing to you the growth journey. We've set aside 15 weeks of growth to help you to be intentional about your growth. Where do you want to reach in your leadership? Which area of your life do you want to grow in? Growth doesn't just happen. It has to be intentional. So in these 15 weeks, we're going to have a special coaching sessions with you to be able to grow to where you want to grow. And to be able to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. A lot of us are not achieving the maximum we can achieve because we have not invested
in our personal growth. We're going to help you in all and more within these 15 weeks. Every week we'll have a session with you. This program is limited to only 15 people. We're going to have 15 people for 15 weeks, and we're going to learn 15 great growth lessons on this journey. So make a date with us and see you on the growth journey.
All right, thank you very much, and Eric, for the presentation. As we said at the beginning, we're going to dedicate the rest of the time for any issues that you may have and that you may want to have some answers to. As Eric said, we are talking about mental issues, we are talking about emotional issues, we are talking about behavioral issues. And all of us, sometimes we think that we are okay until we find that we are not okay. So please feel free. You have an opportunity. You have a professional here, whether it is you, a friend, or a boss, or a colleague. Let us discuss. Bring up your issues, and Eric would be gracious to address them, whether it's personal, organizational, as much as you can. Just type them into the chat box. And as we prepare to come there, I want to encourage all of you who are on the call to sign up for our ongoing program, the Growth Journey. A Growth Journey is 15 weeks that we dedicate. Every week we have a session of 2 hours where we are coaching you on growth, your personal growth. A lot of us have targets, we have objectives, we have goals we want to achieve, but we know that you cannot achieve your goals without growing yourself. Sometimes we don't achieve our goals because some aspect of us is not able to address the goals that we set. And we want to discuss so that you can have an intentional life. You are spending a lot of time at work, on family, on other things, but what about you yourself? How much time do you spend on yourself? And we want to invite all of you. Currently, we are on our third group. We finished with the 2 groups already. We are on the third group, and we are signing up for the 4th group. So get ready, and sign up. And I believe that Kofi will post the link in the chat box so that you can sign up. It's only 1,500 for 15 weeks of coaching, reducing it to a more like 100 cities for 2 hours of coaching, and you get a copy of John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Valuable Laws of Growth, which is the base for this discussion. You get that book also for free, and you will get a workbook, a 100-page workbook, which will enable you to work intentionally about your growth. At the end of this, everybody, all the professional architects, accountants, lawyers, bankers who have gone through this program have testified that it's shifted their thinking, it shifted the way they look at their life and the way they approach their personal growth. They are more intentional. So we want to encourage you. This is a free platform, but we also have these others, and so many people are actually benefiting, and we don't want you to be out. So please sign up for the growth journey, the growth accelerator journey. All right. So Frank is here, and we welcome Frank. Kingsley Boatin is here. Inusa Jai is all the way from Cotonou, is here with us. Emmanuel Danfo is here, and he says, good evening, nice lesson. Conrad says, good to have a superb transmission today. This is highly commendable topic. All right, Rosodai is here, happy to be part of this all important topic. So, hello, Reverend Isaac Appleton is here. Rev, thank you for being here. Conrad is asking, when you see your mood and actions changing, who do you see first? A psychiatrist or a psychologist? So, Eric, please note that question from Conrad. When you see your mood changing or action changing, who do you see first? A psychologist or a psychiatrist? And Conrad also asked, when you feel like withdrawing totally from people for some time, is it a sign of depression? And that's a very important point, because we also advise that from time to time we have to spend some time with ourselves. So that's also very necessary to draw the line. All right. Okay. So Samuel Lamte says, great, well done. And Bright Obinson says, I'm enjoying the lesson. Thank you so much. Bright says, thank you. Mavis Agre is saying, how do you manage people with domineering attitude? So there are three questions there. Let me see if there are others, and then we can go back to Eric to address that. Okay, so we have the links and the connection for signing up to the growth journey. For those of you who are interested, just call and let's discuss. So Bright is asking, hello, sir. I have come across people who have fears of being given some responsibility, but they deliver at the end. Are they suffering from mental issues of a sort? All right, so those are four questions on the floor already. And please, I encourage all of you, share your questions. Eric is here to offer us some answers. So Eric, if you got those four questions, let's take them and then come back. All right.
Okay, so the first question, can you remind me of the first question?
All right, just a minute. What happened to me? I think 1 minute.
Okay, so
Okay,
let me.
so yeah. So Conrad asked the question: when you
Okay,
see
yeah, I've
your
remembered.
mood or action changing, who do
I've
you see
remembered.
first? Yes.
I've remembered. So he mentioned that, okay, so the whole thing is the main difference between the psychiatrist and the psychologist is that the psychiatrist is automatically by compulsory a medical doctor who
Mm,
has additional training in mental health.
okay.
So he is licensed to use medication in his treatment. The psychologist doesn't have to be a doctor, but someone who has been trained in mental health. So even though they both do the same work, the psychiatric is a medical doctor and the psychologist may not be a medical doctor, but you can have a medical doctor who is a psychologist as well. So in this part of the world, in Ghana, psychologists don't prescribe medication. So they are not going to use medicine or drugs to treat people with mental illness. They are likely to use other tools like psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, family therapy, group therapy. There are a number of techniques that they use to come out of their mental health. So the question again, when you have you begin to observe changes in your mood or your behavior, who do you see first? The moment you have been able to observe that, then it means your mental capacity is functioning. It means you have insight. You know there's something wrong with you. So just go and see a psychologist. Usually, psychiatrists are seen when people don't have insight. You don't even know what is happening to them, and we need to medicate them as early as possible. Then you see a psychiatrist. So if you can identify that there's something wrong with you, then go and see a psychologist first. But if you can't find a psychologist, see a psychiatrist because they also have the capacity to take care of people who are just developing a mental health issue.
Okay.
Then there is the question about someone was asking How
Yes,
do you
there's a question
manage a
about
domineering?
if you feel like withdrawing totally from people
Mhm.
for some time, is it a sign of
Yes.
depression?
Okay. So, see, the word is when you are depressed, you wouldn't even know you are withdrawing from people. You wouldn't know. It comes as part of the symptoms. So, someone will have to tell you that it is this, I don't see you here, I don't see you there. You try to go, but you don't feel like go, you can't go. But the moment you decide that, oh, because I'm going to write exams in 2 months' time and I'm not well prepared, let me cut my social platform. Let me disconnect from people so that I can have ample time for myself and study. Your mind is working. Your mind is working. You are feeling good. You are behaving good, but you have a purpose for that withdrawal. So in that case, you don't have any mental disorder or a mental health challenge. Of course, when you want to set aside time to be with God, you can also withdraw yourself for a period of time to go and be upon your spiritual health. So that is not mental health at all.
Great. Now, Mavis is asking, how do you manage people with domineering attitude? And we have situations in our workplaces where some people, whether they are boss or their subordinates, they want to domineer, they want to control everything. How do you manage people like that when you're leading them?
Okay, so the question again is, in most cases, some of the things we see, they are perceptions. Okay. So somebody thinks somebody is domineering. So that's one aspect. So you have to assess yourself very well to be sure you have evidence, not evidence in your head, but evidence physically that the person is really domineering. Then you can take the second step where you let the person know. It's important because it's possible the person doesn't even know he's portraying an attitude of the control. It's very possible. The person may think he's caring. I think I'm caring, so caring that I want to do everything for you. And you also think that I am being what? Domineering. So if I know that I am domineering, then since it's a negative thing, I'll work at it so that we discuss it and then maybe to stop. When you discuss with the person and it doesn't work, like the Bible said, let another person be in picture so that there will be a witness to whatever is happening. Sometimes the third person brings on board a different view to the two of you, the thinking you have about the subject. And that person could be a mediator or someone who could say something that may connect well with the two of you instead of the two of you arguing over who is right or who is wrong. So that is one way you can manage
Oh, Eric, maybe you muted. Did you mute? It's like
Yes, yes,
your mic.
sorry. Okay. The third thing is you cannot change anybody's behavior when the person is not ready to be changed. So some behaviors can be changed by people, others can't be changed. But the interesting thing is that we ourselves can change everything by ourselves. So you can't change me, but I can change myself. I cannot change you, but you can change yourself. And it's all in your mind. If you change the way you think about the person's behavior, you would have changed the person's behavior in your head. So the person doesn't become domineering, he rather becomes a supportive person if you change the way you think about the actions of the person or the way the person behaves. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. So, um, Bright is saying, sir, I have come across people who have fears of being given some responsibility, but they deliver at the end. Are they suffering from mental issues of a sort?
Yeah, so there are people who have anxiety for performance. We call them performance anxiety. They are just scared to be evaluated. Okay, so when somebody gives you an assignment, definitely it's going to evaluate you whether you did well or not. And for some people, that is a big issue for them. I getting it. So when that thing affects the person's functionality, let's be mindful. Anytime there's a mental disorder, that thing should affect the person's functionality in social setting, so at work, at home, with the family. So if because of that the person can dodge work or pretend to be sick or do any other thing to avoid it, then the person has a mental health issue. So as long as it affects the person's functionality severely, that disorder. But if it doesn't, if the person has other options to present the same thing and it can be accepted and he has to go to work and nobody will complain about his work, then it is not a mental health disorder. So the disorder comes in when it affects the person's functionality.
All right. Thank you. But I mean, Doc, I mean, Eric, if you can, we can expand this to other fears also. I mean, recently I have a coaching client. He's a professor. He teaches a class. He does research. He can do seminars, but is terrified um, speaking to the press. And she has a whole seminar finished, and the press wanted to talk to her, and she says no, no, no. Then she has to bring somebody else to come and talk to the press on things that she can't. People have different phobias. People are afraid of height. People are afraid of enclosed places. People are afraid of darkness. I mean, all those kinds of phobias, are they mental issues, and how do you address them when you have these phobias?
Okay, so by the end of our class, nobody should go about diagnosing people because they have a symptom or two. If you're not careful, you find everybody to have a mental disorder. But the key thing is are there reasons? You see, are there reasons behind the person's fear? So, for instance, if the professor has evidence that the press will misquote whatever he's saying, or they've ever misquoted the things she says, and that has affected her badly, then she has a good reason to avoid them. But with that, over time, that thing should heal. The human being is designed in such a way that we heal, we forget, and then we move on. So if the thing happened about 20 years ago and she is still avoiding the press, then it has turned into a disorder. Are you getting it? The same thing
Mm-hmm.
applies. People have been bitten by a snake and they still are not scared by a snake. So when you are bitten by a snake, the first few weeks you'll be scared of snake. It's normal. But when it goes on for more than years, then it becomes abnormal. So abnormality also depends on the number of years, or it's also time has a time limit.
Yeah.
If somebody has done something to you and because of that you have withdrawn from people, "Eh, nipa ti mu ɔden paa o, me nyɔnko paa na ayɛ me sei," it is normal for you to withdraw and then to reorganize. But when that happens for the rest of your life, it's abnormal. It's not normal. It's a disease. So after a while, you begin to trust again and then make friends again and then you move on. So the same thing applies to young people who get broken hearts and then one broken heart and then you say you won't date again. It's not normal. Yes, because some of us have had 4 or 5 before we got to where we are. So when it happened that way, in the first few weeks or months or a year or so, you may decide that look, let me be very careful, let me just avoid them. But you need these relationships to move on with your life. So if you don't go back, then you are sick. If you go back, you are healthy after a number of times. Thank you.
Right. Now, there's this issue I want you to help us with, at least at the workplace, where these days there's a lot of demand on us. Real time, we have targets to meet. People have KPIs, and we have bosses that also sometimes, put so much pressure on us in our work environment. How does this affect us? And from the worker perspective, and also from the boss or leader's perspective, how do you get people to get you the resource without causing them mental problems?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is the this is the modern disease in our workplaces. The modern disease is deadlines, and I think there's a lot of term people use. KPI targets. So people, the bank guys are targets. Then now it's everywhere. In fact, even in my office, we have targets. So everybody's supposed to have a number of cases that they have to see. So it is the modern disease. Now, what is happening is that the world is now moving at a very fast pace, and we as human beings, we are expected by our institutions to move accordingly. But we are here because of this. You are the boss. I'm the boss. I should factor into whatever arrangement or target I put in the mental health of my staff. You know, in UK, I think in 2000, they realized that a lot of people are getting mental health disorders. Anybody who gets mental health disorder because they have a good economy, they are put on allowance because they will lose their jobs and they are put on allowances. The state was losing twice. They lose taxes on such people's income. Then two, they have to go into the coffers of the state to give them allowances. So when they realized this, they said, no, we can't sit down. And then it was the research was done by the London School of Economics. And they realized that it was affecting the economy. And so they quickly decided to train a lot of psychologists, hoping that when there are a lot of psychologists in the system, they will treat these people. When these people are treated, they will go back to work so that they can earn money. The government will stop giving them allowances, but government will rather get income tax from them. And the same picture that has to be brought into the workplace. When you give the person the work and he's struggling, he is going to be of use to you for a short period, and he will break down. When he breaks down, he's at home. Who is going to make sure the target is met? You are likely to get a contract staff to go and do that, and then the one who is sick is still going to maintain his salary. Then you pay extra money to somebody to do the work he's supposed to do. So you are losing. Then also, you, the manager or the head, the leader, you are going to be stressed because you manage your company's resources well so that there wouldn't be so much expenditure. You end up having a high expenditure from your medical bills. So you have to factor in the mental health of each person. Then also, there are some people who have high more resistant to stress than other people. So whilst you are doing that, put people in places where they can function better with little effort or with little push. They can put it. Then there are those who are low at functionality. They can do a lot of work when given enough time for them to work. So some of these targets could be spread across wider space in time so that some of these people can work on them whilst their mental is intact. When your mental is intact, you can focus, you can think well, you can reason, and then produce the best results that your employers require of you.
Great. Now, just a bit of an extension on that, Eric. I mean, we've been going through COVID for almost a year and a half, 2 years. The borders are closed. What are you seeing in terms of how people are coping and reacting and mental issues? Because we have studies from other places where, you know, the COVID situation had a lot of impact psychologically, mentally. how are leaders coping with these things and how are they handling this from where you stand? And in Ghana, do we
Yeah,
have any
so
studies on how COVID is affecting us, our workplace, and leaders, and so on? Anything that you can share?
yeah, so in Ghana, I think the research is still ongoing. Even there have been a couple of quick ones to determine how stressed people have been, depressive, and then anxious they've been. Because depression, anxiety, and stress, they are the baseline for most of the disorders. They trigger other kinds of psychological disorders. But the intake in most of the psychological clinic or mental health clinic has increased greatly during the period of COVID. A lot of people are worried about even catching the disease because when it started, it was a deadly disease in quotes, so people were so scared. And for most of these people, the fear has become permanent for them. Some
Mm,
people cannot go out, they become housebound, they can't go out. Some people have to resign from work because they were scared to lose their lives. Others too have developed an attitude where they come to work but they don't talk to anybody. So they are losing their friends, they are becoming very unsociable. And then there are also those who are actually getting the disease. And when they catch the disease, they think they are dead. They get so scared that the I know a lot of clients who are always asking for extensions in their excuse duties because they are scared, especially because some number of staffs in their offices were positive for the virus. So they are so scared to go back to the office. And up to now, they are so skeptical. Anytime it's time for them to go to office, they have to come back to be sick so they can get excuse duty. So of course, it will affect productivity and then harm the whole economy. But with the severe part of the whole thing is with the introduction of the vaccines and people still catching the disease, it has created a lot of worry in the system, especially when some Ghanaians think that the antivirus is a way to capture our minds and take control of our thinking. Some people are not taking part in the vaccine, and those who took it and are still catching the disease don't trust the whole thing again. So it has brought a lot of confusion into the system, if you ask me.
right. Thank you so much. A few more questions coming through. I think we have like 12 minutes. Conrad is asking, when you take certain actions and you don't remember what you did and don't understand why you took those actions, what might you likely be experiencing?
You are experiencing memory lapses. Okay, memory lapses. There are normal memory lapses, especially in a stressful environment. When you get stressed, you lose a lot of things in your mind. And for us, memory is formed after attention has been paid to the piece of information. So you don't form memory if there is no attention. And if you look at the whole stressful environment, when you are stressed, you can be doing four things at the same time without paying attention to them. So you don't form memory for those four things. Maybe the one that you paid a little more attention, you form memory. The others no. I know a lot of people don't know where they put their car keys. They look for them severally, only to realize it is in their pockets. Okay, so those are common things. Some are looking for their car keys and it's right on their decks. After work, they've been looking for it for the past hour and they can't find it. And then, oh God, so it is right in front of me for all this while. It's because while they were putting the keys down, they were not paying attention. So their mind didn't have anything to save or to store. And so if you go back into your head to bring you that information, it will never happen. So the best thing is to retrace or look for it, not to try to remember where you put it. Look for it because you won't find it in your head. You only find it if you've placed it somewhere unknowingly. So it is common and it is normal for you to forget some of those things. When you realize that, you have to quickly start a stress management program or do some relaxation for your brain to cool down and then do intentionally focus on the things you do to help you um, record or save information so that you can record them later when you need it.
Good. Thank you so much. Martin Achiako Frando says, really love this lesson. Thank you, sir. Very educative. Mami Bafo says, this is very eye-opening. We don't have to go about diagnosing diagnosing people. Now, I would like Eric to mention that because, but I mean, we see people who are misbehaving or people who, uh, so we are not allowed to say that this man maybe he has a mental issue or this woman is a bit stressed. So what do we do when we can really see what's going on?
If
Um,
you say somebody has a mental issue, you've not diagnosed them.
okay.
Yeah, you're actually presenting your observation. But to say somebody has a depression, somebody has
Okay.
schizophrenia, that one you have diagnosed, and it
Okay.
doesn't lie in your power to do that. And because it is also stigmatizing. When you do that, you cause more
Mhm.
problem than helping the person. So you say to the
Okay.
person, I think you are going through some difficulties. It is normal
Mhm.
for people to difficulties. But if you think it is difficult to manage your difficulty, then I suggest that you go see a psychologist or
Mm.
you go talk to. And then I remember the question that Conrad asked from the beginning. He said, who do you see? I want to
Mm.
expand that. Who do you see? You can see so many people before seeing any mental health practitioner. You could see a friend and talk to a friend. Sometimes
Mm.
expressing how you feel is the beginning of the healing process. So, what do
Mm.
psychologists do? We listen to people talk, and the more they talk, the more they feel better. And then some of the things
Mm.
they talk about, they don't think they can discuss them with anybody. And so when they find a professional, somebody they believe will not expose their information or not talk to the person about it, they are ready to freely voice out that. And that is a lot of burden taken off said people. So if you have a friend that you can trust, an uncle you can trust, your pastor, your boss, or any other person, feel free and then talk to the person as the first instance. Then, depending on the response from the person, if you think it's not helpful, then you look for the professional. Because if you have headache, the first thing is to take paracetamol for first aid. If it doesn't
Mm.
work, before you go to the hospital. So the first aids are in our midst. Our husbands and wives, our brothers and sisters, our work colleagues and friends. They are all sources of people we can see the moment it happens.
Thank you so much. What that means is that as leaders, we should be also be able to create room for people to talk to us. We should be open, maybe listen to them a bit more to help them stabilize rather than stigmatizing them and beating them. Mami Bafo
Yes.
continues, and okay, go ahead. We want to make a comment on that.
Yes, so yes, a quick one about the workplace. I remember there was a case where I invited the person's boss, okay, into the picture because I told them that I need to talk to the boss because some of the things people think is hallucination, but I think it is real. So for hallucination, sometimes you need a second person to validate what the person sees. So
Hmm.
when the client was trying to put across his issue, then the boss will keep saying, no, 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 no. Do this, do this. Then I said, look, you see, you are not listening to the person. You've judged him already as a lazy person. You've already pronounced him as a bad worker or an ineffective person. But listen to the person. Listen to what he's saying. He doesn't come to work early, but listen to what he's saying because it's possible there's something happening currently that when you listen, you will help the person to recover or overcome their difficulty. So listening means pay attention to the person regardless of what you know about the person. So when we were kids, you find someone crying and then and so what's happening normally, okay, you won't
Mhm.
listen to the child. You don't know why the child is crying, but you have assumed that because he's so stubborn and he's always doing a lot of bad things, it's possible he's been beaten. But if you have listened, maybe your own door, the trap door, hit his hand and he's hurt, not anybody beat him, so that you can attend to your child and help him resolve their problem. So let's be active listeners regardless of who we are dealing with. That's the only way they can come to you. For instance, adolescents are so much adversive to their parents these days because we don't listen to them. We don't listen. Even when they are telling us something, we don't listen. We only want to give instructions for them to follow. Let's listen to them so that we listen, we get their opinion because sometimes the person who has the problem has the best way to solve the problem. So if you don't listen to the way you want to solve the problem and you want to impose yours on them, it will not help. They will go and come back with the same problem, and then you'll be repeatedly trying to solve the same problem and it will never get solved. Thank you very much.
Great. All right. I think we'll take the last batch of questions. We have 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Mami says, we can get hurt by others, but at a point, we have to get over it and move on. All right. I think that's a comment. And then she says, I read that men also suffer postnatal depression, which is a mental health disorder. Is that possible? Have you encountered any who has suffered from it? Okay, so that's one question. And that the last one is from Benjamin, who is saying, do all mad people have psychological problems? All
Hey.
right. so so those are the first comment on getting hurt and getting over it, and men having suffering from postnatal depression, and if all mad
Okay.
people have
Okay,
psychological
so
problems.
we thank the lady for her suggestion because it's important. Because if someone hurts you and you don't forgive and let it go, you hurt yourself more. Remember, the person could have said one word within a second and he hurts you, and you've been keeping this for years. The person is not repeatedly hurting you. You have created the avenue for the person to repeatedly hurt you for these years. So forgive and then move on. It's healthy for you. Then we come to, can men have postnatal? Yes, everything is possible. Everything is possible. You see, men are supposed to be strong, not that they are strong. Let's be careful. Men are supposed to be strong, not that men are strong or stronger than women. The society made it so by a lot of men who are struggling with their emotional being, but they don't talk about it. Now, the pastor I spoke to you about from the beginning, after meeting the family, he then told me, then he has been depressed once, but he didn't know it was depression until today. That was 15 years ago. He never knew what he went through was depression. He almost drove his car over the hills or down the ditch on the Bree Road up there. When he was going through those difficulties, he had suicidal thought. "Mewu ana asa, mewu ana ọba no deɛ ɔpɛ na ɔnyɛ." And that was pure case of depression. You get it. So, like we said, men can also go through difficulties, but society makes them feel like they can't. So I want to encourage men. If you are going through one, seek for help. There's nothing wrong. Strong men seek for help. It is rather the weaker ones who hide their difficulties and in the process die and leave their family. So the other question is, do are
Oh,
mad people having psychological problems?
yeah.
The word mad is derogatory, is stigmatizing, so it's no more used. Okay, it's an archaic thing. We don't want to use because it doesn't make anybody feel good. So let's use mental illness. Okay, so but when we talk about madness, it means very severe mental illness. severe mental illness involves the person having hallucinations and delusions. So the person is not able to take care of themselves, and they're the ones we normally find on the streets. So they've lost contact with reality. We use the term they've lost insight. They don't even know what is happening to them. In fact, those people don't know what is happening to them. So it's a psychological disorder, but of severe intensity. So it's the same thing. So we call that condition schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, where the person loses contact with reality and he doesn't even know what is happening to them, and they are just anywhere at any time. That is what we call
Good.
mad.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. I believe that everybody on the call has learned something. Even those who didn't ask questions have learned a lot. So we want to thank you for sparing these 2 weekends with us and going through these very, very important lessons. As we said, talking about this is so important. So let's talk about it. If you have any issues, Eric is available. If you see me, contact me. We'll be able to share his contact so that you can talk to him. He works at the Trust Hospitals at Osu. So if you pass by, you can look for him and talk to him. So we want to thank everybody who has been on the call this evening. And we thank God again that we've had a very good discussion this evening around this all-important subject. I thank all of you. We don't take your participation for granted. We know that you are also learning. Have a very, very good night, and we want to encourage you again, please register for the growth journey because it will amaze you what you are missing. You will learn so much. So God bless you. Have a good night. And let's go to church tomorrow to glorify God. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
We spend a lot of time developing our professions, but we don't spend time developing ourselves. Look, as a leader, as a professional, you have to grow. You have to grow yourself. And to be able to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. A lot of us are not achieving the maximum we can achieve because we have not invested in our personal growth. So we are bringing you this special studies based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And we're going to just spend time with you and help you go through the principles that you need to be able to grow your person, to become a better person. Because if you become a better person, you become a better leader, you become a better father, you become a better professional. Do not miss this opportunity, as the masterclass is going to be very practical and discussional. It is going to be a limited number of people. So please register now to be part of the program.